Good morning, good evening, welcome everyone to our exclusive X Space today, where we explore industry trends and deep dive into all things related to decentralized physical infrastructure, or DePIN in short. My first call to action, as always, is to please share this within your network on Twitter, so we can spread the word about this space. My name is Sebastian. I'm part of the community marketing team here at Impossible Cloud Network, and today we have an exciting guest here to talk to us about the new exclusive partnership with Aethir. Anthony, can you give a quick word about yourself and what Aethir is all about?
Cool. Just really quick introduction, guys. Again, Anthony here, part of the ecosystem marketing team or partnerships team. So yeah, Aethir is a decentralized enterprise-grade cloud infra company. Aethir has been building for the past 3 or so years, originally as sort of a Web 2.5 company, right, providing this enterprise-grade compute for gaming initially, and then sort of expanded to AI inference and training and continued moving more and more into Web3. So the sort of big move for us and the reason Aethir became most known in the Web3 space was actually because of our node sale, right? So a lot has happened since then, of course, but yeah, that's sort of the really quick intro on Aethir.
Okay, last try. Hopefully this was better. So from our side, a quick introduction about Impossible Cloud Network, who we are, and what really makes us unique in this space. So Impossible Cloud Network is a multi-service cloud platform connecting cloud service provider with top-tier infrastructure, right? So similar to Aethir, and Anthony has already portrayed it shortly. So we're decentralizing the cloud with high performance in mind, right? So keeping service quality high for actual Web3 and Web2 enterprise customers. In that sense, key partners of our ecosystem are hardware providers as well as cloud service providers, and of course the community you. So thanks again for joining today. Maybe to start from our side, Kai, quick introduction from your side, and then I already have a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for hosting and joining here for the Aethir guys. So Kai, previously a serial entrepreneur, founded a gaming company at massive scale, thousands of servers before, and then in the cloud, and also had some big exposure to the big tech companies in the valley. And that's basically where we started this idea of building potentially something that is more decentralized at massive scale, with the power of Web3 incentivizing others to build this together. That was the initial starting point of Impossible Cloud, and I think it's a great space to be in. Main focus for Impossible Cloud is obviously to focus very much on the demand side. I think we want to bring mass adoption to Web3 technology, something that Aethir is working on as well, and doing a great job there. And I think we will need a lot more DePIN projects out there to really build the ecosystem out that enterprise customers can use the Web3 technology, and this is what we are super excited about in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks again, both Kai and Anthony, for jumping on the call. Kai, maybe from your side, I mean, the cloud market is currently valued at around, give or take, more than $500 billion USD, really, and it's projected to even grow more tremendously over the next years with 2 trillion, depending on which study you believe. So what do you think are the key underlying factors for this massive growth?
Well, definitely there's more and more data being produced over time, so data is growing exponentially. The other demand for GPU, CPU computation network and so forth is growing exponentially as well. And then obviously there is on top of that, AI definitely coming as another inflection point. AI will definitely fuel the demand heavily on additional GPU and also hardware requirements for storing data heavily over the next years. So one thing that is really changing over time is how much data is worth for companies. So not only the exponential growth, but companies today starting to want to store everything that they have produced in terms of data, because the value of the data is increasing. Just if you think about this, several years ago, if you had an X-ray from a patient or whatever, and if that patient died, you were just like throwing that data away. Nowadays, you can use this data still to train AI models, and so the data is really increasing in value, and that means that all of these data will be stored over time at massive growth. And at the same time, you need computation. So I think this is one of the huge drivers, and we will see unparalleled growth over the next years in the whole space, leading to vast amounts of opportunities.
Definitely very exciting times. And on that opportunity, who really gains the benefit of that, right, is the key question. And of course, is one of the key arguments for Web3. So if you think about that, the cloud market is heavily dominated by really only a handful of companies, right? So AWS, GCP. Given that market share, what do you see, what do you make out as the biggest opportunity in this market in terms of, how to compete with them, the market opportunity here?
I think Web3 can be much, much more at scale than anything that has been built before. If you just think about the largest compute network in the world, Bitcoin, is definitely orders of magnitude larger than anything that the hyperscalers, the companies you just named before, have built over the last 10 to 15 years combined. So the pure scale that Web3 can deliver is massive. Then second of all, I would say their margin is our opportunity on top. But that's not even needed because the market is going to grow so fast that there will be outside opportunities needed to store and compute data besides what Amazon and Google and Microsoft are offering. So I think that's a huge opportunity that we can jump on top of. Then second of all, I would say the efficiency is super low in the current cloud world. Lots of data centers really having a ton of underutilized capacity in computation as well as in storage. And that's combining that together is massive as well. And then lastly, but not least, I think there are many, many use cases where decentralized networks are just superior from a physical standpoint. So if you think about proximity between data and the request where it's coming from, the more distributed you are, the closer the request has to travel. Essentially, you have these laws of what's called data locality and data gravity, meaning that you should always try to move the compute close to where the data is. And obviously, that can be done way more efficient in decentralized networks than it can ever be done in central clouds. And the central clouds also will have limits of growth, just in terms of electricity and space. Essentially, building out these massive data centers in certain city hubs is coming to some kind of limitation. I think all these factors combined really showcase that there is a high demand for decentralized cloud out there, and the Web3 world is just maturing in a way that it's made for building out these decentralized networks. And I think we are here in a prime position.
100% agree. I think that the market is definitely ripe for disruption. Anthony, from your side, so if we think a couple years back, and definitely still there's all this demand for cloud services, and at the same time, there is a GPU shortage in the market. From your side, what do you think are the main reasons for the shortage, and how do these factors contribute to serving all this demand?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I typically try to break down this shortage in the four main categories, right? And Kai sort of touched on all of these. But one, massive buy pressure, right? Biggest tech companies in the world, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, right? I think Zuckerberg was buying almost $11 billion worth of H100 GPUs. Second, the supply itself, despite NVIDIA essentially being the biggest company in the world, they can still only produce so many GPUs per year. Third, again, Kai covered this, but the complexity of these models, right? These things are increasingly more compute demanding. And I think fourth is sort of the main issue and what Aether really solves for. But I think these resources have just been incredibly poorly managed. With the majority of these GPUs that are sitting in these data centers just are completely underutilized. So companies that have them aren't using them, and the companies that need them can't access them. So, for example, we took a look at enterprise grade GPU resource and data centers across the US. And these incredibly expensive resources are sitting underutilized nearly 80% of the time. So Aether thought, if we could create this infrastructure layer that allowed us to give these underutilized pieces of infrastructure the ability to connect, and then be resurfaced in front of that compute demand ecosystem, right? That would be meaningful. That would be a meaningful amount of supply that we could redistribute into the market. And so, with that in mind, Aether essentially functions as a GPU marketplace that connects, again, these underutilized GPUs with the companies that need them, but either cannot afford them under these sort of traditional centralized models or just cannot access them because of the supply issue.
Makes a lot of sense. And you recently conducted a note sale. How does that factor into what you just portrayed?
Now, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Was it the goal of our
Sorry.
node sale?
Sorry, yeah, because you mentioned the shortage and how Aethir essentially has, taken the opportunity and stepped in to solve that problem. At the same time, you just connected a node cell. I'm just curious how that factors into Aethir's unique solution of that shortage problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So our node sale is a little bit different. So it might be helpful to give a little bit of context. So I think the average sort of compute DePIN company, right, typically starts off with consumer grade compute, right? The standard GPUs in your laptop and your PC. And they generally do this for a few reasons, right? It's a great way to get started. It's a great way to build community, incentivize participation, and it's a great way to get your first GPUs on your network. Though I think the challenge with that, and what Aether understood up front was, that can be a really hard product to sell to enterprises. So understanding that from the beginning, Aether sort of built the company on hard mode, right, and chose from day one to only focus on these high-end enterprise-grade GPUs. So Aether now has this incredibly reliable network. It's one that enterprises can rely on, and that's great. But Aether still wanted to decentralize the verifier network and also offer the community a meaningful way to contribute and then earn for those contributions. So that's what we actually accomplished with our node sale. So Aether has 25,000 people running over 90,000 of our nodes currently, and we call these our checker nodes, which are also sometimes referred to as like the police of our network. So to keep it simple, our checker nodes do things like confirm these GPUs are what they say they are. They verify they're online and ready to take tasks, and so on. So these checker nodes are actually incredibly important to Aether's network, and of course, the people running our nodes are incredibly important parts of our community.
It makes a lot of sense, Anthony. So you basically have these nodes doing all these checks and validations of the network's integrity, more or less. On the hardware side of things, you already mentioned enterprise grade. Can you give a bit of elaboration or nuance why enterprise grade? As you mentioned, there's a lot of projects out there that focus on consumer-based use cases. So why did you focus on enterprise grade use cases?
Yeah, again, I think it's just the again, obviously not a knock on consumer grade compute or the companies building with that type of compute. I think it's our niche. It's what we really focused on. Again, our kind of founding team comes from an infrastructure background. They understood the type of product that enterprises want. Again, the typical enterprise probably will not want to build on the back of consumer grade compute, right? Even in my computer, I have my 4090 GPU, and that's great. I connect it to that network, but what if I turn my GPU off at 9 p.m. or I decide to watch Netflix and I bottleneck my service, right? So, at least with enterprise grade, again, they're really high end GPUs. They're sitting in data centers. They're managing, 99.9% uptime. And so, yeah, I think again, for our particular use case and the sort of product we wanted to build and the enterprise and clients that we wanted to serve, enterprise was the best option.
Yeah, maybe if I can jump in here, I completely agree with everything that you have said. Also, for Impossible Cloud, that was the main driver in the beginning, or the main focus, really to go for the enterprise grade market. Obviously, it's by far the most difficult to build enterprise grade products, but this is the only way of really dethroning the incumbents, really to build a cloud that is on par or even going beyond what everything that's out there from AWS and so forth. Enterprise grade obviously has its challenges. So you need to build really solid products in terms of compliance, performance, uptime, availability. You need tons of integrations. So it's also like what we focused on in the first couple of years, really build this demand side traction. Integrations with massive companies out there, market leaders in backup software and other softwares and so forth, tons of market access tools. And by now, the system is up and running, growing quite nicely. So we almost tripled our enterprise customer accounts over the last 2 months alone, surpassing 1 billion objects that we handle every month now. So that's massive, but it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of knowledge and capacity to really build out these enterprise-grade products. And essentially, it's super hard to do this and run on Web3 technology, but that's the way forward. And I think Aethir here is on the complete right track. Once you have solved this, and if you are able to open this door for enterprise customers to the Web3 technology, then you are really set to grow. Right, so that's great.
So I think what we now understood is that some joined overlap in the sense of enterprise grade focus and why that's key, why that makes sense. Anthony, you briefly touched on the node cell already and given a bit of nuance that it's the checker system. It's also a great way to get the community involved in this. If you combine those two, what do you think are the key takeaways and lessons learned from the node sale that you guys conducted in this year?
Yeah, so Aether's node sale was still pretty recent, right? I think Aether did actually a great job building community, right? We didn't just post a node sale one day and hope people participated. We really took our time. We developed partnerships with all of the top communities in the space. Sort of curated this community of holders with people that really understood Aether and the vision. So yeah, I think I see a lot of companies that are doing node sales today and sometimes miss that piece of the puzzle. The focus sometimes is more, selling the nodes and the decentralization, rather than sort of really curating the community and prioritizing people that do see the vision and are excited to really contribute long term. And so, yeah, I
And
think. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in because I think that's a very valid point that you just brought up in curating the community. How did you guys manage to do that? I mean, I guess the response was overwhelming, seeing the results. So, what do you think are the key steps that you've taken to involve them actively in the project?
Yeah, so again, our node runners are obviously really important parts of Aether, right? And thus far, I think the majority are happy. We've worked really hard to reward our holders, right? You may have seen we recently even announced an additional $50 million in rewards for our community. 20 million of that went straight to our node holders in the form of an additional airdrop. And this is obviously important, right? Our community already participates in a meaningful way, and we want to always continue rewarding them for their contributions. But one thing that's also is really important to us is to give holders a voice and a say. In our recent 6-month roadmap, we also did announce that we'll roll out our DAO in Q4, which I'm actually really excited about. So yeah, Aether will always be community focused, right, and prioritize rewarding holders. But going forward, we'll also make sure that they actually have a say in these decision-making processes and ultimately help shape the company going forward.
Yeah, maybe if I can jump in here as well. I think this is a super great approach and super important, really leveraging the benefits of the Web3 world and maximize this. So also what amazed me about the Web3 world when I was coming into it is the sheer capacity of the community. I mean, I've seen a lot in the Web2 space, IPOing companies and so forth. And whenever I talk to people about big tech companies, it was always kind of common sense. They have so big moats, no way to attack them, right? So there's no way how you can ever outcompete an AWS or whatever. But with Web3, I think the power is in the community. The power is in enabling others to participate in the network and make this happen together. And there's always the saying, like, no matter how big a company is, and if it's Google or Facebook or what, or Meta or like Amazon or whatever, no matter how big a company is, there will be always more smart people outside that company. There will be always more hardware resources outside that company. There will be always more financial capacity outside that company. And if you are able to leverage this network through community and through participation, this is the ultimate idea why Web3 can be so powerful. And if you build real world use cases on top, that's going to be massive.
Fully agree. Thanks for those. And maybe taking a cut here for the partnership, because you've just announced one, Anthony, with us. I'm really excited for the opportunity ahead. Maybe Kai, before we go into the details of the partnership, how were you first made aware of Aethir? When did you first see them?
I think the first time I saw Aethir probably was around a year ago or so, and then Aethir was really coming massively. One thing to note here, I mean, I still got really good connections into the gaming industry, in the gaming space, and obviously Aethir is pioneering gaming use cases with Web3 technology. So that's really interesting, and for sure through these connections, I definitely also got to know Aethir. And also what I like about their approach is really that it really ticks a lot of the boxes that we do in a very similar fashion. Really going for enterprise customers, go for real world use cases, involve the community, build this out in a very good way. We started with different use cases, which I think is super interesting as well in terms of partnerships. So we focused from the beginning on object storage. Aethir started with GPU and AI model training, inference, and so forth. And I think this is also why potential partnerships are so exciting. Again, because it's not one project outcompeting AWS alone. It's like about partnering in the right way and really bringing all the collaboration together to make this happen together.
And touching upon that aspect, Kai, what do you plan to do in this partnership between Aethir and the Possible Cloud Network?
Yeah, so from our side, it's super interesting, of course, to go multi-service. So we believe the ultimate holy grail kind of is a decentralized multi-service cloud, right? An open cloud that is very decentralized and is offering lots of services. What you see from the customer perspective, and I mean, as a customer, I've spent several hundred millions for cloud services. What you see from a customer perspective, it's not only about one use case. As a customer, you want to store data, you want to compute data on top of that. You have analytics, you have CDN, you have all kinds of stuff that you want to run, and ideally in one cloud, in one location. That's also why the lock-in effect of the AWSs of the world are so big. And essentially, what would be great is bringing the best of the best services together and offering these to customers. And obviously, we have lots of enterprise customers that we can address already that would be super happy to compute on top of their data. And I think that's where Aethir is really in a super strong position, and it would make a ton of sense to join forces here, because I think 1 + 1 = 3 in this regard, really opening up way more demand if you are like having more to offer to customers in the end.
100%. Looking ahead, Anthony, what are the next steps for either this partnership or Aethir? Do you have any upcoming developments and announcements that you can share with us?
Yeah, so Aether has a ton of new developments. If anyone has time, I'd encourage you to check out our new 6-month roadmap. But yeah, at least a few examples, right? We are rolling out our cloud portal, again our DAO, which gives holders voting power. We're also expanding our offerings in a few new verticals, actually. But one example is Aether will be releasing pre-trained AI models that businesses can use on demand without needing to actually develop or train their own models from scratch. We're also launching our ecosystem fund to support startups within our ecosystem. And by the end of Q4, we recently announced that we will migrate to Sofon, which I'm pretty excited about as well. So, and then on the community side, of course, we have a few major announcements coming soon. But right, yeah, there's a lot happening and certainly much more to come as well.
Amazing. What about next week? What do you have planned for Singapore?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in the US. It's a tough it's a tough flight. So I'm personally not able to make it out there, but yeah, the team is out there in full effect. I think I might actually be one of the only people not going. So yeah, I see in our Lumen the amount of events and the presence we have out there is pretty insane.
Right, that's unfortunate you can't make it, but I saw that Aethir has a lot of great events planned next week. And really excited for you guys' development, ecosystem fund, all that great activity about the pre-trained models. That sounds terrific. Kai, from your side, what are the next steps for ICN, and what are some announcements you can share with us?
Yeah, definitely what was touched on before already, like the importance of nodes within such networks is the same thing for us. It's basically touching on the DePIN verification problem and solving that without going into the details now. So basically upcoming for us as well is a node sale pretty soon, private and public. So that's definitely something we are working on quite hard. And then involving the community via the node sale, basically, to participate in the network, and then a token listing shortly after. So that's really on the agenda. Token 2049, I'll be there. It's unfortunate that we cannot meet in person, but anybody else listening in here, just get in touch with us. I will be there as well, Sebastian, and a part of the team. And so, yeah, really looking forward to a great event and absolutely exciting times over the next months.
Great, Anthony. If people want to know more, get involved, learn about Aether, what's a good point of contact?
Yeah, I'd say just follow the Aether accounts, right? We have a really open community. Our team, there's a ton of direct access. You can message me, you could even message our founders, and you'll probably get a response, right? So yeah, check us out. Join the community. There's lots of ways to contribute. A lot of new and exciting announcements coming, and yeah, exciting times in the space.
Fantastic. From our side, same here. So if you want to get in touch, don't hesitate, either directly on our socials or the website, as well as in person next week, Thursday. We're going to host an event together with Witness Chain and Spheron, or we just meet at Aether's event during next week. Anthony, thanks so much for jumping on the call. Really appreciate your time. Really excited for this partnership to go ahead. Kai, same for you. Thanks for jumping on the call.
Thanks, Anthony, as well. Thanks, Sebastian.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for the invite, guys, and looking forward to working with you.
Absolutely.
Same here. Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.